Hello race fans, I'm Justin from NRN, and today I want to take a walk down memory lane and revisit one of the greatest NASCAR races of all time. So let's put that car in reverse and take a look back at the 1992 Hooters 500 at the Atlanta Motor Speedway. It was the last race of the 1992 season, and it marked the end of a career for legendary driver Richard Petty, and the beginning of a career for rookie Jeff Gordon. But there was still a championship to fight for. For the first time ever in the history of the sport, there were 6 drivers that had a chance to walk away with the championship at the end of the race. Davey Allison was the current point leader going into the race, but Alan Kulwicki, Bill Elliott, Harry Gant, Kyle Petty, and Mark Martin all had a mathematical chance of stealing it. Rick Mast would grab his first career pole, and would be the first driver to crack the average lap time of 180 miles per hour. As far as the championship contenders, Mark Martin would be starting 4th, Bill Elliott, the hometown hero from Dawsonville, Georgia, would be starting 11th, Alan Kulwicki would be 14th, the current championship leader Davey Allison would roll off 17th, with Kyle Petty not too far behind in 20th, and rounding out the contenders, handsome Harry Gant would have a long ways to go to win the championship, rolling off the line from 25th. The green flag waved and the 6-car battle for the championship was underway. But trouble struck early when Brett Bodine was challenging Rick Mast for the lead, lost control, and took both he and the pole sitter Rick Mast out of the race. During the crash, point leader Davey Allison took some minor damage on the left rear of the car when Hut Strickland tagged him trying to avoid the crash. Allison decides not to pit under the caution, but there are worries that the sheet metal would act as a parachute and slow the car down. The race would resume with Dale Earnhardt in the lead. For the next several laps, he and Ernie Irvan would battle for the top position until Dale Earnhardt is forced to pit when he suddenly runs out of gas. During the pit stops, Michael Waltrip does what he does best and spins out all by himself, bringing out the second caution of the race. Because of when the caution came out, several of the leaders had already pitted. That would put guys like Earnhardt and Kyle Petty a lap down and would hand the lead over to Bill Elliott. The race would restart on lap 72 with Bill Elliott in the lead and Alan Kulwicki in second. The two would put on a fierce battle for the lead, each scoring 5 bonus points for leading a lap. But while Elliott and Kulwicki raced, Mark Martin, who made a sneaky pit stop early in the race, would grab the lead from Elliott to claim his 5 bonus points as well. Shortly after Martin takes the lead, the third caution comes out for a stalled car on the track. During the yellow flag pit stops, point leader Davey Allison would take only 2 tires to get him the lead of the race and 5 bonus points. The race resumes on lap 90, with the championship leader Davey Allison leading the race. After a handful of laps, Mark Martin reclaims the lead from Allison, but on lap 96 a huge crash erupts on the front stretch involving several cars, including the King Richard Petty, who literally ends his race in a blaze of glory as his car bursts into flames. Petty's last NASCAR race goes up in smoke. At the restart, 5 of the 6 drivers fighting for the championship are in the top 5. Martin would be first, Allison second, Gant third, Elliott fourth, and Kulwicki fifth. At just 100 laps complete, Allison is still the point leader, 45 points over Kulwicki. The race resumes on lap 104 with Martin in the lead. He would show the way until lap 134 when the awesome Bill from Dawsonville would take the lead, with Kulwicki hot on his tail. Martin would drop back to third, with Elliott leading and Kulwicki in second. If the race were to end right then, Allison would win the championship, 6 points over Kulwicki and 11 points over Elliott. But there was still 184 laps to race. Green flag pit stops begin on lap 154. Kulwicki makes his pit stop only to learn that he has no first gear. His crew is forced to push him out of the pits to get going, and they will have to do that every time he pits, which is going to put him at a serious disadvantage. But Kulwicki wasn't the only one with trouble. Without warning, championship contender Mark Martin's number 6 quits running on the front stretch, and thus brings his race and championship hopes to a sudden end. Meanwhile, back at the ranch, Ernie Irvan stays out to lead lap 164 and wins $10,000 for leading at the halfway mark before heading into the pits and giving the race lead back to Bill Elliott. At this point in the race, it's becoming evident that what started out as a 6-horse race has now become a 3-horse race between Allison, Elliott, and Kulwicki. With Elliott leading the race, that puts him tied with Kulwicki for second place in the points, just 11 points behind Allison for the championship. Martin is behind the wall with a blown engine. Gant runs in 10th and Petty is 15th, one lap down. Kulwicki continues to work on Elliott's lead, and with 144 laps to go, he begins to reel him in. Allison has slipped back to 8th and is now only leading the championship by 2 points over Kulwicki and Elliott, who are still tied for second. With the points being so close, Allison's crew becomes concerned that the damage they received at the start of the race is affecting the car's handling and hurting their chances. They come up with a plan to fix the sheet metal with an aluminum patch, but they need a caution to keep Allison from going a lap down to make repairs. As luck would have it, Dale Earnhardt hits the wall and the caution comes out with 125 laps to go. Allison comes into the pits and his team makes the repairs to the rear of the car and he rejoins the race in 10th. However, because Allison is running in 10th, Elliott and Kulwicki are now tied for the lead of the championship and Allison is 6 points short. With Elliott and Kulwicki tying, the championship would come down to the most wins that season, which would go to Bill Elliott. The race resumes with 120 laps to go, and what happens next is some of the best racing you will ever see. Kulwicki and Elliott run side by side, racing for not only the lead of the race, but the championship. For 3 to 4 laps, both drivers run door to door, Kulwicki on the inside and Elliott on the outside. Finally, Kulwicki is able to get the lead of the race from the dominating force of Elliott. With all the racing going on up front, Ernie Irvan is able to get up to Elliott and race him for second, which allows Kulwicki to start building a gap. Irvan takes second, Jimmy Spencer takes third, and Elliott falls back to fourth. But he doesn't stay there for long. Elliott begins to charge, taking third and then second places, setting his sights on the leader of the race, Kulwicki. Meanwhile, Allison is trying to regain ground and he now rides in 6th. Allison is once again leading the championship by only 5 points over Kulwicki and 15 points over Elliott. Lap 243. The caution weighs for Bobby Hillin Jr., who blows the motor and brings all of the race leaders to the pits with 85 laps to go. Kulwicki just barely beats Elliott out of the pits and he continues to lead the way. Allison comes out of the pits in 6th place and remains the championship leader. But now, the race becomes a chess match. The teams know they can only go about 64 to 65 laps on a tank of gas. That would put the last stop of the race with about 20 laps to go. Elliott, Kulwicki, and Allison now have a decision to make. Do you take fuel only? Or do you take 2 tires and make a charge? The race resumes on lap 250 with Kulwicki in the lead and Elliott right on his bumper. And then it happens. Swerving Ernie Irvan spins and collects Davey Allison. Both drivers slam the pit wall on the front stretch. Allison is out of the race and his championship hunt is over. Now it all comes down to Kulwicki and Elliott. What started out as a race between 6 is now between 2. When the race resumes, Kulwicki has a 10-point lead over Elliott, who runs just behind him in second. For Elliott to win the championship, it's all going to come down to if he can lead the most laps and gain the 5 extra bonus points while winning the race. Easy, right? He already led 85 laps in the race, but Kulwicki had led 70 and was still leading. If Kulwicki could lead the most laps and take that chance of bonus points away from Elliott, then he could be the 1992 champion. Laps continue to click off with Kulwicki in the lead, but the conversation begins to turn to the pits. Both drivers will have to pit with about 20 laps to go. Both teams talk about taking fuel only, but remember, Kulwicki has no first gear. That's going to give Elliott the advantage coming out of the pits. With 20 laps to go, Kulwicki tries to save fuel, allowing Elliott to catch him once again. Kulwicki dives into the pits for fuel, allowing Elliott to take the lead. In less than 4 seconds, Kulwicki takes fuel and is on his way once again. 2 laps later, Elliott hits the pits for fuel only. When it cycles out, Elliott is in front of Kulwicki and he's the leader of the race with 9 laps to go. It's all about the 5 extra bonus points for leading the most laps. Bill Elliott goes on to lead the last 9 laps and wins the Hooters 500. He leads a total of 102 laps. Kulwicki would finish the race in 2nd place and would lead a total of 103 laps. Kulwicki gets the 5 bonus points and becomes the 1992 Winston Cup champion. Bill Elliott did everything he could do in that race, including winning it, but it all came down to Kulwicki leading just 1 more lap than he did and scored 5 more points. Kulwicki would be champion, but sadly he would be killed in an airplane crash the very next year in April. Kulwicki would be the first driver owner since 1960 to win a championship, and he would be the last until a great battle between Tony Stewart and Carl Edwards. But that's a story for another day. If you have a favorite racing moment you would like to see on the show, drop a comment below, and don't forget to give that like button a tap, and if you want to see more NRN, go ahead and subscribe. I'm Justin, and thanks for watching.